Chiefs close out the regular season with the Falcons and Chargers, both those games at home. Kind of nice they don't have to travel for the rest of the year. But the Falcons come in 4-10, not the best record in the league, but not the worst. Still going to get a top pick. They're going to get a nice up close view of Eric Bieniemy, maybe another extended job interview for EB. But so, Jordan, the Chiefs win this one. They clinch the number one seed in the AFC. That's all they have to do. If they don't win it, I think either Pittsburgh has to lose or Buffalo can lose.
Mhm.
So, kind of, what are your first thoughts about this game?
It's a take care of business game, and, like, the thing with the Falcons is people are gonna talk down on them and say, "Oh, they're 4-10, blah, blah, blah." Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge record guy, like, I know that you're supposed to be what your record says you are. I really don't believe in that. Like, there are bad teams that are competitive, and there are good teams that are much worse than their record. You can look at the Steelers and say, "Well, they're not really a 3-loss team, they play more like a 5 or 6-loss team." And then there are
Mm-hmm.
teams like Atlanta where they've played competitive football and have had a ton of one-score games, much like the Chargers, who the Chiefs will face next week, where they're a lot more competitive than their record shows. So I'm not overlooking either of these opponents, and I
Right.
think that the Chiefs are echoing that sentiment where they're not trying to look too far ahead. So that's the one thing I'm looking forward to is the Chiefs kind of just taking care of business and getting out of there with a convincing win.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes was asked earlier in the week about just if he knows the scenarios, if he knows what needs to
Mhm.
happen. He said, "All I know is we've got to win on Sunday, and if we win on Sunday, we clinch that number one seed. We just have to take care of our business." So it's good to see that the guys are focused on this game, and I think that that's kind of an interesting one to look at because on paper. It's pretty one-sided. The
Yeah.
what the Chiefs are good at, what the Chiefs' biggest strength is, could possibly be the Falcons' biggest weakness in the pass defense in the Chiefs' pass game. So I don't know how well this is gonna um, end up for the Falcons, but just to look at some stats here, the Falcons have allowed an average of 103.2 QBR, which that's a pretty good rating.
Pretty
That's
good.
28th in the for 28th most in the league, and they allow an average of 287.7 yards per game for quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
Patrick is above average. So what do you think that do you think this is just a recipe for disaster for the Falcons?
Uh, Mahomes is a little bit above average. I mean, I wouldn't say that he's great or elite or anything, but all jokes aside, it's not gonna be good. Like, I saw a tweet that was along the lines of like, "I'd be worried about the Falcons," and, like, I am aware of the Falcons, and then
Mhm.
immediately I, like, wished I wouldn't have tweeted that because, like, really, the only way the Chiefs can lose this type of game is if the Falcons score on every possession and the Chiefs offense doesn't have a good day, and, like, against that level of a defense, I think it's going to be a Mahomes asserting himself for MVP, maybe not gonna play much,
Mhm.
if at all, next week type of game where records are going to be broken. They don't care about the stats. Obviously, we care about the
No.
stats. We want to see nice big numbers. They're going to put up the nice big numbers, but I'm definitely, if I was a Falcons fan, I'd be downright terrified right now about this game.
Yeah, that was my first takeaway when I saw those numbers. I was like, "Oh my goodness, this could be bad news for the Falcons." And another another piece of bad information if you're a Falcons fan is Falcons are not very good at covering tight ends. And it just so happens the Chiefs have the best tight end in the whole entire universe with Travis Kelsey. They're bottom 10 in yards allowed and touchdowns allowed to tight ends. So Travis Kelsey, this could be a big day for him as well, and he could break that record on Sunday that he's been looking for, and really put himself back in first in the receiving yard totals.
I expect him to, and we may or may not have something cool planned for that. We're not going to spoil it.
We could.
I guess, yeah, I guess I kind of just did, but irregardless, like Travis Kelsey's going to do Travis Kelsey things. Tyreek Hill's going to do Tyreek Hill things. And like, if there was one game where I could see Patrick Mahomes throwing like for 400 yards and 100 of that goes to Hill, 150 of that goes to Kelsey, and then the rest of the guys like Le'Veon Bell gets 50 or something, it would be this type of game. Like Atlanta can't stop them. They can't stop Hill. They can't stop Kelsey. We'll talk about their offense here in a little bit.
Hmm.
They're a, yeah, it's just not looking too good for them. The matchup is really, really bad.
Yeah, it's not great. And as you mentioned, this could be a stat padding game. I could see it going a lot like was that the Buccaneers game in the first quarter where Tyreek Hill already had 200 receiving
Yeah.
yards, and
Yeah.
yeah, I could see it going a lot like that. It depends on. I'm sure the Chiefs will be aggressive. I'm sure the Chiefs are
Mhm.
going to try to add points early so they can get maybe an extra quarter of rest for Patrick Mahomes and those starters. And if they do take care of business, they do get that one seed as I mentioned, which is going to be rest enough because going into
Mhm.
the playoffs with that number one seed is going to be huge.